So I'm on the porch today and I'm gonna paint that canvas, and I'm going to paint a scene from the Silver River when Robert and I went canoeing down the Silver River not that long ago. There was a lot of beautiful things to see, so I'm going to take one of those scenes and paint it on that canvas. First, I'm going to enjoy my coffee and my morning cigar. There was no smoke. Wait. Here it goes. All right. So first I'm going to do that. And in case you're wondering, there's my coffee. My coffee. All right, let's get started in a minute. So the first thing I'm going to do, here's my palette. It's very odd for me to do a palette like that, but I wanted to show you that. I'm going to explain it in a second. First of all, that big glob of white right there, it's not white paint. It's gesso. Okay? So let me turn the camera so I can show you what I'm going to do. Okay? I'm going to aim it toward the canvas. And this is a very beginning stuff. I'm just going to take a big brush. This is a very stiff brush. Nothing to it. And I have on here the gesso. That's the gesso. It's going to drip off. I got to be careful. That's burnt umber. And that's crimson and blue. There's a lot of blue, a little bit less, even more less. Okay, the idea here is to first, I'm going to use the brown, the burnt umber. And I'm just going to do a quick, little bit of a sketch for myself, because what I want to do is outline where some of these trees are going to be. And I know that doesn't look like much, but that's about what it's going to be. Okay? And it's going to be lighter over here, darker over here, dark over here. Okay? So what I want to do is I want to do the complementary colors, the opposite colors of what they're going to be. So they're going to be mostly greens. So let's go take this red and this blue, this crimson and this blue, mix them together and put lots of gesso in there. See? Now I'm just going to spread this around. And the reason I'm doing that is because I want to cover the canvas with a complementary color. And it doesn't have to be perfect. I think over here probably needs to be a little bit more red, and make sure there's lots of gesso in there. The gesso will kind of prepare the canvas. So, all right, I'm going to turn the camera off because I don't want to bore you with the real time for the whole thing. But let me show you what it looks like. Oh, that's me. I don't want that. So there it is. That's what I got so far, and I'm gonna work that, and then I'll come back when I get it done. Well, not when I get it done, but when I get this part done. Okay, let's start painting now. So what I have here is I have this light green, this dark green. This is Payne's gray, which is kind of it's a magical color, and then I have red, only to act as a way to desaturate the green. Okay, so I think what I want to do is start with the Payne's gray and a little bit of red added to it. See, and I'm going to make this line a little bit more defined right there. I think I like it like that better. It was a little bit too much of an angle before, so I'm going to make it that like that. And then over somewhere around here will be those bushes, and it'll come out to here and come down to here, and this whole area here will be water. So I'm just brushing some of this Payne's gray and try to imagine some dark areas in the lower part of the brush across the river there. Just basically just brushing in some Payne's gray, kind of haphazard, kind of dotting it in using what do you call it? pointillism kind of an approach to it. And then over here I'll do the same thing. And just kind of indicate something. I'm going to be going over this later anyway. You can see the canvas is loose, it's wobbly on the board here, so that's okay. On the easel, I should say. A lot of places that are dark, and the dark areas are always kind of cool because when the picture's done, it shows up. A couple of places that might be hiding places for animals and for hikers and stuff. I'm just kind of tapping it in there now so we have somewhat of an idea of what the composition is going to look like. I'll have some brush coming down all the way from the top of the trees that are hanging over the river. And I think you can maybe see it. Maybe you can see it already starting. Put some dark down here where the water is. And you can see some of that underpainting is still wet and it's picking it up, but that's okay. I kind of like the idea that it's not we're not painting a house, we're painting a picture. So it doesn't have to be a perfect layer as you would if you were painting the wall of a house. Kind of brush it in, tap it in, and the Payne's gray that I put on the palette here is almost all used up, and I'll mix some of this red and this green here together to create this very desaturated green. And put a lot of that around here too. That light green in there just to give it that feel. A little bit of light green over here. I'm going to need to add some blue to that over there too. And this is basically going to be done as a layer, so I have to, just like I had to let the underpainting dry, I'm going to have to let this layer dry. That red and that green work very nicely together as a way to desaturate the green. And of course there's a lot of green in the water too, because the water is reflecting all that green. So some down here. There's a lot of just simply, you don't want to paint every leaf obviously in the trees, So you paint it as if you had a blurry view of it at first, and then you can always add the details later on. Scrub it in. You know what I do when I do the digital art? I do a lot of scrubbing also with the dry brush. It creates a cool, kind of a cool effect to scribble it, to scrub it in, and then it's a mixture of dabbing, pointillism-ish, and then the scrubbing effect. It gives a nice, it gives a nice dry brush effect. Is what it does. And you can see that underpainting is showing through, which is what we want. It won't show through completely. In fact, it might not show through very noticeably when I'm done. However, it's a good way to kind of gauge what you're doing. Put some more light over here where the sunlight's coming through. Of course, that'll be seen down here in the water too. Whatever's up here is going to be reflected down here. Get some dark areas in this stuff. That red plays a nice role too, and the red mixed with the green. You see, it takes that green and it makes it less green. And if you did it the opposite, if you used, if you wanted to make something less red, then you would do the same thing, except that you would use more green, more red, I mean, and less green. Okay, I'm gonna let this dry now, and we'll come back and add some more paint after it dries so that it's more of a fine-tuned picture. I'll just keep working on it until it's fine-tuned. Now, in the digital world, I would take this and make this a separate layer that could then be maneuvered or manipulated on when you use the traditional paint, actual paint. Obviously, you have to paint over the paint. If this was oil paint, then it would take a week before you could do the next layer. It would take a whole week, about, unless you had a drying agent, which you could do too. But the drying agents, I think, they tend to make the oil crack like 10 years from now. There'll be cracks in the painting. So, in the paint, I should say. All right, so that's still very rough, very messy, but it's starting to look the way I hope it will look. And let me take the camera so it can show you closer. All right, so that's what I've got so far. Again, this is the water that comes down here. This is a clump of trees here. The river goes back around that bend, and then these are the trees across the river. And it's starting to look like it, but not yet. The problem I'm having here in the porch is the fact that it's so backlit. It's kind of hard to see it. Maybe if I get closer. So you can see it's a bunch of dots. It's a bunch of brush strokes. It's still a mess, a big old mess, a big new mess. It's a big new mess. I'm using this as a mirror. Did I get any paint on my face yet? Usually I end up with paint somewhere on my face. All right, let's let it dry. So again, the backlighting from the outside light is kind of fuzzying it up a little bit, but anyway, you can see what I'm trying to do here. You can see that, again, this is the edge of the water. This is all water here. This is some greenery in the relative foreground, and this is greenery in the background with the light now shining through it. So you have the sky and then the light green leaves from the sun hitting it, and it's starting to look like the painting I'm trying to do. So I'm gonna take a few more layers, and this gives me a chance to let it dry, and I'm gonna walk away from the camera and let it dry and come back in just a bit. All right, let's get back to it now. Looks like I need to add a little bit of yellow. I'm going to add a little bit of yellow to the already the green that's already on the palette, and see if I can add some detail. Plus, I'll add some white to that too. So I still have some white on the palette. I still have some green, and I have some yellow. So I want to add some of that light. Maybe a yellow green. I'll mix the blue in there and just create a green that's very, very light. Very, very light. And I'm going to just kind of poke it around in the area that's the water here, and do a lot of this dry brush technique with it. Make it a little bit more water-ish. Make it look like reflective water. And up over here too, in some of these areas in the sky, peeking through, and I'll fix that. Make sure it's balanced with the light and the dark. Just little brushes, little tiny wisps. I think this water needs to be reflected probably all the way to the bottom, even if that's not the way it looked in the actual moment we were there. Whoops. I turned the canvas, the easel, I turned it a little bit so the camera can see better what I'm doing. And very, very much a dry brush. There's hardly any paint on here. It's just scribbling onto scrubbing onto the canvas. There we go. Now you have this this Payne's gray, which is very dark. I'm going to take that and I'm going to make some. It looks like trees. You know, I don't want to do completely vertical, but I just want to create like the beginnings of what will be trees. I have to add the light because the light is hitting these trees. So these are like leaning palm trees, I guess, that were on the side of the river. There's a few back here. And there are some vertical ones also in there. Some vertical lines. Get some of this here. Some of this down here. Okay, and we want to take this dark area here and make a more defined shoreline there. Take this green, lighten it up a little bit with that yellow. See what I'm doing? Taking that green and make it a little bit lighter so that I can, even lighter than that. Let's make it lighter than that. Maybe add a little white to it. So it's got that little bit of a, now it's too dark. So I gotta, there we go. That doesn't look too bad. Add some red to that to desaturate a little bit. Yellow. The edges here that are catching the sunlight, and then of course we're going to have to add the red again to darken it back here. Have to be careful not to make it muddy. Muddy is no good. Dark and light, that's what's important. This is where the light's hitting back there. Okay. Let me get some more Payne's Gray. Actually, let me get the Payne's Gray right now. And get some more of those dark areas there that need to be there. Payne's Gray is such a magical color. It seems to work in so many different ways. Use a little smaller brush this time, a little tiny brush. Small, it's not tiny, but it's kind of on the small side. I'm just going to use the Payne's Gray straight out of the tube and fill in some of these dark areas over here. Brush in some of these. some vertical lines back there, some trees that go straight up, and then the other trees that go don't do that. So these trees are reflecting in the water, so I have to make sure I put them in there. Little lines that make it look like water. With the dark contrasting with the light, the shadow with the reflections. So all I'm really doing right now is using pure, straight from the tube, Payne's Gray. The contrast is not great over here because the dark green is almost as dark as the Payne's Gray. And that's okay. I'm using the small brush, so it's kind of like the turpentine effect with oil paint. Trees have to have some more light on them. I'll get to that eventually. Right now I'm just trying to get in some of the details, or the appearance of details is maybe a better way to say it. Look of water, these little horizontal brush strokes. And then pointillism again up in the trees, some more just dabbing it, scrubbing it. Making it look like a scene from the Silver River, which is what this is. A scene from the Silver River. A beautiful Silver River. Right here in Ocala, actually in Silver Springs. You know, when you're a kid and you're painting water, you know, you do that little wavy thing. Well, you were kind of on the right track when you did that, because that's kind of how you do water. It's just not as simple as that. It's a little bit more complex, but it's the same idea. This yellow green, I'll take advantage of the fact that I have Payne's gray on my brush, because then you can add a little yellow to it, and since it's Payne's gray and not black, the yellow will start to look green, and I can do some of the highlights on some of this greenery here in the foreground. Of course, some of it will be reflecting in the water too. Kind of back and forth between the two areas. Yeah, it's the same thing. Again, I always compare it to digital, because I do digital a lot, and the digital technique is the same exact technique, except you don't got to clean the brushes, you don't got to worry about water spilling all over the place, and you don't even need an easel. You just put the laptop, the iPad on your lap, and boom, you're done. You're ready to go. Here. Some light coming through there. See that yellow paint is making it look cool, really cool. Like there's some, just a hint of sunlight making its way through to some of these leaves in here. Go back to the green again. Yellow and blue make green, so let's use it. Oops, oops. little hints of waves in the river. Okay, I think I'll sit back and try to look at it with fresh eyes. So let me show you what I got here. Sorry, I haven't been talking the whole time. Okay, I'm gonna try to see if I can finish it up now with this next installment here. I looked at the reference photo and I saw some parts that I thought maybe I overdid it on the darks and the lights. So I'm gonna continue with some of this Payne's gray. I'm gonna block it in a little bit over here, and I gotta fix that part over there that has the symmetrical leaning palm trees. It bothers me a little bit. So what I'm gonna do for that is I'm gonna try to make, so take that Payne's gray and some yellow. See what I'm doing? I'm trying to make a green. It's kind of a very light yellow green. I think I'm coming up with it here. I'm going to add some more white to that. And I'm going to add that back here, I think. Put some of that stuff around here. I feel like it needs more light coming in over here, because then down here you see it'll be reflecting in the water some more. And I think that'll work. Let me add more yellow to it. Let me add white to it. A little bit more white. Yeah, so. And a lot of that stuff can work to break up these symmetrical lines that represent the leaning palm trees. Now, I don't know if that's going to be enough. I might have to paint over those palm trees. We'll see. I think over here should be more light coming in through the other side of the river. And coming down here too. Reflecting in the water a little bit more than I had it. I think that's probably more likely to anyway, because, you know, if I'm taking artistic license here and adding things that are not in the reference photo, it doesn't really matter, because ultimately what matters is the composition, and when it comes to a painting. So I just want to make sure I have that. And then get some more vertical lines, I think, in there. I think these leaning trees are a little bit too symmetrical. That's the best thing I can think of. They're just too uniform. And while it might be that way in the real world, it looks funny on the painting to me. It looks like I need to work on it some more. So. But I'm hoping this run through I can finish the painting. And I say I got a lot of that in here. Let me get a smaller brush now, and get the smaller brush. I think I'm going to add a few more vertical lines. Come up like that, maybe even branch out a little bit, you know, because there clearly would be trees that do what trees do, which is they branch out. It's just that I don't see them in the reference photo. So I wasn't painting them in there, but I think they need to be in there. Yeah, that's looking That's already looking better, isn't it? Don't you think? These vertical lines representing branches. And you know, there should be something over here too, I would think. I'll add some more dark reflections coming into the water from the background. Yeah, that makes more sense to me now. Yeah, that makes more sense to me. If you ever go down the Silver River, it's a really beautiful experience. You will see wildlife. I would like to promise you would see monkeys, but sometimes you do and sometimes you don't. But you always see alligators. There's always alligators in that river. They don't run from you. Well, yes, they kind of do, I guess. But I mean, they'll be laying on the side of the river, and if they see you, they're going to be there unless you get real close to them. Then they'll move. So, Robin and I used to practice our music. She plays the mandolin, I play the accordion. We used to practice right there on the river's edge, and every once in a while, an alligator would come up as if it was listening to us practice, and I actually think it was. I'm sticking with that story. It looked to me like it was. It came up more than once. That alligator. Should have given him a name. I guess I could do it now. It was a gator, a fan gator. He liked music, a musical alligator. He had a soft spot in his hard heart. A soft spot in his hard heart for music. And I think the problem with the symmetrical trees is fixed now because I add considerably more vertical lines, and that actually looks more realistic. That's what it looks like for real, you know. There are some palm trees in there too. I'm gonna try to, I'm sure I can do that and get away with it. Maybe. It's just a hint of some of those palms. I think they'll try to get a few little wisps of white. To accentuate the ripples in the water. see over here where the light is reflecting off of the sky and the little openings in the trees. The only thing I'm thinking now is a little bit of I'm gonna take a chance here. I'm gonna add a little bit of orange, this color, just a touch. I don't really want it to be orange though. I have to mix it with probably some green. Let's see what I can do here. Mix it with some white and some gray. Yeah, that's the color I think I want. I just want to add some of that over here. Give the feeling that there's sunlight hitting what would probably be sand. Just to have a hint of it over here, I think would be a good idea. A little bit of that light colored where the wet sand is at the edge of the river. Maybe a little bit over here too. but I haven't been looking at it now. Let me find it and see what I think. Dark. A little bit of that yellow, green, that light colored. That very light green. And a bit more of the dark, I think. Some parts of the water will be less disturbed than other parts will be smoother. A little bit more up here, hanging over. Okay, I think I'm going to call it done. Okay, let me turn the camera so you can see it. I'm calling it done. Like when you make a cake, you call it done, right? Hold on. Okay, well there's the finished painting of the Silver River. We'll call it the backwaters of the Silver River because that's really what it is. It's kind of the first part that you can paddle through when you have a canoe. There it is. That light from outside there is fuzzying it up a bit. But there it is. Okay. See you later.